my gorgeous friends on the internet, how you are doing? Okay, so in the previous section I showed you guys how to fetch to do how to fetch data from GraphQL and display in our Flutter application, right? And it went successfully. It was so awesome, it was so amazing. So in today's video I'm going to show us how to delete each of these items from the database. But to do that, we need to do something. First, we need to create our schema. Yeah, you guessed that right, which is the same thing we kept doing here, but I think you actually fade that a little bit. We need to push this code to GitHub. Okay, so yeah, so I'm going to say git add and task, which is to delete items from the to do. So to delete this item, let's see what the documentation has to say. So we go to delete to do, which is around mutation, and the only thing that is required is just the to do id. Is an integer and is required. So let's see, we just have to pass the to do id and then the data will be deleted. Okay, we can actually get the id back and all this stuff, but I don't think we can do anything with it because it has already been deleted. Okay, so to get this we are going to use the mutation. So what I'll do, I'm just going to create copy this stuff because it's still similar stuff, you know. Yeah, it's still similar stuff, but we just have to change this from create to delete, and also change this one from tags to id, this one from string to int. Okay, and we can remove this one because we don't need it based on the endpoint. Input, this is going to be id, and we can remove this. I hope I am right. So let's check this again. Delete to do int to do id. Sorry, to do id is not actually id, so it's actually to do. So make sure you spell it correctly. This one should be to do id, but I think it doesn't take input. Yeah, it doesn't take input, so that's another thing you need to be careful about. It doesn't take input. You can see just take this to do id, unlike this create to do that takes input, so we have to pass the input. Okay, so to test this to see if it's running, let's try to delete one item. Okay, so we pass our to do id. So which id are we passing? I'm going to go to where we fetched the id initially. So let me try to remove, let me fetch it again. So if you go to our project now, I want to try to remove this last item, which you type gibberish and rubbish. Okay, so let me get the id. Now this is the id 105, and I'm going to go back to my delete to do and paste it here, and let's see, run it. Variable id is not defined. Okay, so I'm trying to get id when id is not defined, so I need to, this is a part of the way GraphQL shows errors to us. Very clear. Even if you run it in your code, it's still going to show it this way too. Very clear for you to see. That's why I always print out the errors whenever I check for if result that has exception. I always print it out to be sure to know the data that is returning, because that way it's really going to help us in terms of debugging. Okay, so let's write this again. Delete to do. All right, delete to do, it has been deleted, so we can see the tags that was deleted. So let's go back and try to get that to do's again. You can see previously it was showing here, but let's get it again to see if it's going to show. You can see now it's gone, it's not there anymore. So let's try the same thing within our application. It's still showing, so we're going to do a hot restart, a refresh, and you can see it has been removed, so it's not showing again. We only have these few items. Okay, so that's cool. So now what we need to do now is to add the schema to our project, and then let this button do the deleting for us. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to copy, sorry, go to delete. I'm going to copy this. Okay, and this is the similar way we did for creating a to do, but this time now we are passing the id, that is the note id. So I'm going to add delete task schema like so, and class it will be delete okay, static delete JSON. Yeah, it should be like that. And then don't forget to put your 6 double quotes paste it, and now you can see we have this $sign, so we need to escape it using this backslash. Okay, all right, that's cool, that's cool. Okay, so real quick, I'm going to copy that same thing I did initially, which was where we are trying to add a new tax, add new tax. I'm still going to copy this stuff again because I don't need to have to rewrite this stuff once you already defined it once. Okay, so we're going to create another provider, and I'll call this one delete tax provider dot. Okay, and I'll paste it. Sorry. Okay, I'll paste it here, and then change this provider to delete tax provider. And now we don't need this. Okay, we need the status, we need the response, we need the endpoint, we need this, we need the client dot mutate. You remember that this gets tax provider, we change that mutate to query. Okay, my bad. Get tax provider. Okay, this was supposed to be changed to query, but I don't know why it still works. But just know that you need to change it to query. So this should be query options. Yeah, this should be query options. Yeah, so I don't know, that one actually worked, but that should be the way it should be. I think that was our error, this get tax provider. So just please correct that error. That's my bad, sorry. But the data are still fetching, and which is still good. Yeah, it's still fetching, but please correct that error. If it's mutation, we change it to mutate. Okay, valid on mutate, and change this query options to mutation of options. Okay, so we also have a fetch policy. If you want to check, if you say fetch policy dot, it has so many things. Catch first, that means it's going to read the data from the cache alone. Then catch only, by default is at cache and network. So what it does, even if you come here with that data, it's going to display the data, but once there's internet, it will try to fetch the new data from the internet. Okay, then it has cache only, network only. You should know what network only means. You know, it won't cache, then we have no cache. So these are the fetch policies you need to play around with and read them up to understand it properly. Okay, so I won't be covering that here in this video. Okay, we also have pagination, to do pagination with GraphQL and every other thing. So I think I'm going to do those stuffs in the next video. Okay, so I'm going to close this. Then tax, and this stuff I'm going to change it to delete tax provider, and I think I need to import it dot delete JSON. Then now the tax word that we need is just the to do ID, and I'll pass in the to do ID, and then we are going to remove this one, and then now here we're just going to pass the to do ID. And remember, the to do ID is actually a string, so this should be is actually an integer, sorry, so this should be an integer. Okay, I think that is it. We are good, and this should not be tax was successfully deleted anymore. It was okay, tax was successfully deleted. Yeah, it shouldn't be added anymore. Yeah, that way is good, and we can clear, and that is it. That is it for this page. Yeah, that's it for this part. So now let's try to delete the to do from the database. So we go over to our delete button. So here I'm going to wrap this stuff with, yeah, I'm going to wrap it still with a stream builder, just the way I did on this part. Yeah, just the way I did here. So what I'm going to do is just to, it's still the same thing like when we are trying to add a new to do. Okay, so it's still similar method. We are passing the ID, so just try to I don't know if I pronounce that correctly, but please just try to use your your programming knowledge, think outside the box, and you can see they are actually the same thing. There's no difference. So I'll change this one to delete because I don't want it to conflict with the other one that we have tax. Okay, so I'll just use delete here to make it unique. All right, and then what I'll do is just to delete the task. So basically we need to show the user a warning message first before we delete the task, right? So I'll use a scaffold messenger here dot of context dot show snack bar going to be a const widget snack bar. So the user needs to confirm it that he or she is sure that they want to delete the data. So this snack bar has an action property, so I'll be using that action to actually delete the data from the DB. Okay, so I'll use action here. So it's going to be snack bar. So I believe you guys are already familiar with this snack bar action. So the label is going to be, I don't know if this label is a string or is widget. Okay, it's a string, so it's going to be delete now. Okay, and then this should just call the tags.delete. Okay, so I'm having some, I don't know if this is the cause. Okay, that was the cause, so I'm going to return this as a const constructor. Yeah, delete now. So once we click on, let me save it first. If we click on this delete button now, okay, sorry provider, I haven't added it yet, so I need to add this delete provider, my bad. So let me go back to my, I need to register with, that's why I got that error. So we need to register every provider that, always make sure you register every provider that was created. Okay, so do a hot restart. Oops, I need to be fast about this. Okay, hot restart there. Okay, so another hot restart to be sure that everything is good. So once you do your hot restart, we have added this delete tags provider already, so I don't think I need anything to do with this stuff anymore. Okay, so I will have to do, copy this. Okay, I'm just going to leave it for now, but let's see if this stuff works. Click on it, it shows a snack bar. Are you sure you want to delete these tags? Then if you delete now, it deletes it automatically. Okay, but once it deletes it, we want to show a snack bar to be sure that something has been deleted. So what I'll do, I'll go to the page where we added that add task, which was add to do. So I'm going to copy this widget binding dot blah blah blah, because we're still going to need it to show snack bar like when it's been deleted already. Okay, so I'm going to copy it and paste it here, yeah, above here. Okay, so I'll check if tax, not tax this time, is actually delete, because that's what we are working with. Delete dot clear, delete, yeah. So if delete or get response is equal to empty string, show that, else show the other one. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to call delete dot delete tags. Okay, delete dot delete tags. I think I didn't change the value, I didn't change the function name, so it should be delete tags instead of add tags. Okay guys, we are almost done with this course, and it's not going to be a huge one. So delete tags, and I need to pass the to-do ID. So the to-do ID is actually coming from, remember the ID that we use here, that's actually the to-do ID, remember. So I'm just going to copy this to-do dot ID. Awesome. To-do ID, yeah, paste it here, close that, save it, and let's try to see if YouTube tags will be deleted, because that's the only unique one here. So let's click on it, click on delete to do, please wait. Tags was successfully deleted, but it didn't remove immediately, so we have to do some hot refresh. Yeah, we have to refresh to see the data gone. YouTube tags was not deleted. Why? Guess there is an error somewhere, but there's nothing we cannot debug, you know. Let's try this other one, hello world. Tags was successfully deleted to do, pending hello world. Yeah, it was deleted, but why it's still not showing? Refreshing. Okay, it's not refreshing. Let's see if we can change the fetch policy here. I think fetch policy might be the issue, so let's go to this get tags provider and change the fetch policy to always come from the network. So let's change the query here, fetch policy dot network only. So I just hope that works, and do a hot restart. Okay, now I think it's gone. But if we are doing it this way now, that means, okay, yeah, it's good, yeah, everything is good. But if you are doing it this way now, that means the data is going to, whenever we close and come back, it's going to reload again and all those stuff. That is not what we want. So we are going to check. I'm going to pass another function here, which is just going to be a boolean value, which will be is local. So we need to know if it's actually local. Okay, so if it's local, that is, if we are fetching it locally, like for the first time. So if it's local equal to true, if it's local, then we are going to use, just set it to null, so let it just fetch normally from the cache. Okay, but if it's not local, if it's local equal to true, fetch from cache. But if it's not local, then fetch from the internet. So now inside this home page now, whenever we try to fetch for the first time, this is local, true, yeah, is local, should be true. But once we are trying to refresh, it should be false. That means we are going to fetch from the internet. Okay, all right, so save it, do a hot restart. Okay, so let's try to delete, let's delete all of these wash clothes to see what's up. Delete. Okay, I won't refresh now because it has been deleted, but you can call set state to see if it's actually going to update immediately. And then I'm going to call this one again delete, deleted, to do with id does not exist. Okay, we have already deleted it the first time, so I need to refresh. Okay, refresh the page. Yeah, it has been, it is gone. So let's try and delete this one again. Once we delete, we refresh the page. Now it's going to fetch, whenever we refresh, it's fetching from the network instead of from the cache. Okay, so refresh, you can see the items I'm removing one after, they are going off one after the other. So once it deletes, I'm going to do the same thing. Alright guys, so this is where I'm going to stop for this video. So you have seen how to delete tags from a GraphQL database. Okay, so in the next section I'm just going to do some recap and some outro, yeah, and then we just round up this course real quick. Okay, thank you so much guys for watching. I so much appreciate.